Wait, what? You didn't see part 1? Why are you here if you didn't see part 1? I mean, it's okay if you didn't see it to see this part, but still. Hey Jerry.
Yeah?
They didn't see part 1.
What the f***? Are you kidding me?
No, they didn't see it.
Well, they better go see it.
I know. Hey, go see part 1 if you didn't see it. Here we go with some more underrated and underplayed commanders. Starting off with
Daxos the Return.
He's a 3-mana white-black 2/2 zombie soldier. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you get an experience counter. Pay 3, put a white and black spirit enchantment creature token onto the battlefield. It has this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of experience counters you have. Daxos is here if you want to try something a bit different. Experience counters have always been good, but with the addition of all the low-cost enchantment creatures in recent years, now it's Daxos' time to shine. Playing the enchantment gods is a no-brainer in this deck. Heliod, Sun Crowned, can give lifelink to a creature you control, and whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature or enchantment you control. Archon of Sun's Grace lets you put a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token with flying onto the battlefield each time an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control. Double the value with Daxos, making you enchantment tokens. It's easier than ever to rack up your experience counters nowadays. There's a lot of cheap, efficient enchantment creatures like Daxos himself. Blessed by the Sun, whenever a creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, you gain 1 life. A life-based strategy is not a bad idea in this deck. I wish I had a life, to be honest.
Yeah, boy.
And some old school enchantment creatures such as Doomwake Giant, giving all your opponent's creature -1/-1 each time an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control. Or Thoughrender Lamia, that makes all your opponent discard whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control. Oh, and they're also enchantments themselves. Daxos is great if you want to try something different than the more popular banned enchantment decks that we see around. Next up, Niv Mizzet Reborn. He's a 5-mana, 5-color, 6/6 flying dragon avatar. Holy shit. When Niv Mizzet Reborn enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each color pair, choose a card that's exactly those colors from among them. Put the chosen cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This guy doesn't get the love he deserves, and I hope I'll change your mind. The first thing you want to do is get something that can flicker Niv Mizzet. There's a couple of good choices in the Azorius color, so we can grab them if he enters the battlefield. Old school Brago, or the fairly new Soul Herder that lets you flicker a creature you control at the beginning of your end step. Once you can start abusing his ETB ability, you can search up your removal cards. There's a lot, I repeat, a lot of good color paired cards for removal, and the fun is deciding which ones you want to play. Same thing for Planeswalkers. I think the best strategy for Niv Mizzet, as he can find them easy and protect them as well. Just don't forget to play the 2-colored ones, and why not play the Planeswalker Oaths as well? Oath of Teferi lets you flicker a permanent when he enters the battlefield. Flicker Niv Mizzet, enjoy your hand. This guy is amazing at generating value. In fact, I wouldn't even run card draw in this deck. The second Niv enters the battlefield, you fill up your hand. That alone is a good enough reason to play him. Next up, Shattergang Brothers. They're a 4-mana Jund 3/3 Goblin Artificer. Pay 3 with a black, sacrifice a creature. Each other player sacrifices a creature. Pay 3 with a red, sacrifice an artifact. Each other player sacrifices an artifact. And play 3 with a green, sacrifice an enchantment. Each other player sacrifices an enchantment. This guy is all about value and turns his color identity that generally leans towards a more aggressive deck into a more control-based deck. You're gonna want to play cards that have 2 different card types. Like Anax, Hardened by Forge. Whenever Anax or another creature you control dies, create a 1/1 Satyr creature token. He's also a creature enchantment, so if need be, you can sack him for double the value. Same as Duplicant, Artifact Creature, double the value, double the fun. Korvold, Fey Curse King is a must in a sacrifice deck, making you draw every time you sacrifice something. The new Perforos could be pretty nasty as well. Other creatures you control have haste. Pay 3, you may put a red creature card or an artifact creature from your hand onto the battlefield. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So sneak attack whenever you like, attack with it, sack it to the brothers. Value. Here's a couple of new cards that are perfect for this deck. Astra lets you create a 1/2 spider token with reach whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery card, and Nightmare Shepherd. Whenever a creature you control dies, you may exile it and create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1. Sweet ability that adds value to the creatures you're gonna sacrifice. And that's all for the Shattergang Bros. Sadly underplayed, and obviously a lot of ways you can play the deck. Have fun with it, dude. Next up, Marisi, Breaker of Coil. He's a 4-mana Naya 5/4 Cat Warrior. Your opponents can cast spell during combat. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, goad all creatures that player control. Until your next turn, those creatures attack each combat if able and attack a player other than you if able. Goad is a very powerful ability, and goading your opponents each turn makes for some of the funnest games I've ever played. First, you're gonna want some unblockable creatures to make sure you goad as much as you can. Soltari Foot Soldier is a 1-1 with Shadow for 1, and Gingerbread is a 1-1 haste for 1 that's almost unblockable. Playing these may seem a bit weird in a commander deck, but trust me, having them in your opening hand is the best feeling ever. Marisi is all about combat, so Iros is a no-brainer, giving all your creatures menace and preventing all damage to attacking creatures you control. And Miri, Marisi's girlfriend, whenever she attacks, each opponent can block with more than one creature this turn. Pair that with Iros that gives menace, that makes all your creatures unblockable. How sweet is that? And once all your opponents are goaded, you go berserk mode and play cards like Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight. If a source would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, that source deals double that damage instead. And Avatar of Slaughter, all creatures have double strike and attack each turn if able. Ouch! Watch all your opponents kill themselves as you swing in with your team for the win. Marisi is a blast to play with and I highly recommend it for anybody who likes a bit of chaos in a game. And last but not least, Yawgmoth Thran Pharmacist. He's a 4 mana 2/4 black human cleric, protection from humans. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. Pay 2 black, discard a card, proliferate. A lot of avenues you can take with this black Urza. Mono black is very powerful and Yawgmoth brings a unique playstyle to the game. There's a lot of -1/-1 cards that never see play, but here's your chance. Crumbling Ashes reads at the beginning of your upkeep, destroy target creature with a -1/-1 counter on it. The synergy is real with Yawgmoth. And Nest of Scarabs. Whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, create that many 1/1 black insect tokens. And Necroskittles, whenever a creature an opponent controls with a -1/-1 counter on it dies, you may return that card to the battlefield under your control. Stealing creatures is always a blast and it makes it easy with Yawgmoth. Next, Blowfly Infestation. Whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, if it had a -1/-1 counter on it, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. So much synergy and there's a lot of cards like these that never see play, but they fit perfect in this deck. But with his proliferate ability, it's hard not to put planeswalkers in this deck. With enough mana, you can proliferate them to ultimate the second they hit the board. And black planeswalkers don't get the love they deserve. In this deck, they will. So a modern day twist on the mono black deck, and you decide which avenue you're gonna take with Yawgmoth. It was quite refreshing diving into some unexplored themes and strategies, and making this video made me realize how good and fun these commanders actually are. So I'll probably be making a deck on one of these soon. See you there. Until then, ban Riff.